The top players at that position available in April's NFL draft. He reportedly is not going to work out at the scouting combine at Indianapolis this week. He will meet with teams in Indianapolis, but he is not scheduled to work out for them, and we'll see when he is going to spend some time working out and what that is going to look like moving forward. College basketball, top 25 action tonight. Number 5 Houston on the road against number 9 Texas Tech, biggest game of the evening. Also tonight, number 12 Michigan goes to Nebraska, number 23 Kansas at home. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
Dell Technologies is celebrating with anniversary savings on their most popular tech. For a limited time only, save on select next-gen PCs like the XPS 16, powered by Intel Core Ultra processors and more. Plus, curate your dream setup with great deals on select monitors, mice, and more must-have electronics and accessories. When you shop online at Dell.com/deals, you'll have access to leading-edge technology to match your forward-thinking spirit and free shipping on everything. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time and skip the regular line at the airport and pay for speedy security. Imagine not having to quickly unpack and pack at the place you already came packed to. And wearing your shoes the whole time you're there? You can't put a price on that kind of luxury. Well, actually you can, and you paid for it. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For speedy security. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
If you're not addicted to your phone yet,
we've got some bad news.
Get the SportsGrid mobile app.
That'll do it.
Get gaming strategies, odds, and information whenever and wherever you are.
Get it. And get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline. With the two best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, listen, I don't know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the SportsGrid Radio Network, Sirius XM Channel 159.
Word up, word up, word up! That's every day. It's now officially underway. With Donnie Rightside along with... Who's this?
Welcome in. It is Game Time Decisions.
Game Time Decisions today? Who is it? Yeah,
wow, look at that.
In.
Now listen, this let's ignore that you sound like you're underwater, all right? Let's ignore
that.
But
also, let's ignore this. Friday, with a different producer, and no Kevin, it was sensational all the way through. So how about that?
Now, how come you tacked on then Kevin? Why not just go right after the source who you're really upset with and leave me be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know that this isn't my fault. You know this isn't my fault.
Yep.
What I
everything
like,
was smooth, everything was working out beautifully, and then you just peered back on the show and apparently threw it all.
I like the occasional reminder that you miss me. Like you took whatever amount of time it was to clip up one of my intros from Game Time, so you could play right here in this spot, which I like to see.
Yeah, there we go. I had to get it back going again. I had to find something. We'll add to the repertoire, as we say, as we move along. But it is what it is. Feeling good though on a Monday. What did you do this weekend? Did you eat?
Man,
I ate great this
I'll tell you what I did this weekend is I did the in-game live from 8 to midnight. And I had a lot of fun with Coach, but DRS, I'll be honest with you, swing and a miss. Couple pregame bets were okay. Wow. I jumped in on Illinois catching 20.5. Didn't cover the bet for a second because they were losing at the time I took the bet. That thing was a rocket ship. I took a couple of Jokic live bets. He played, 2.5 minutes in the fourth quarter. Lakers blew that team out. I mean, I capped off the night with a live Stanford team total that fell 2 points shy. So, it was like, I guess, just getting back into the groove. They were all bets I could make sense of, but there's just, that's how in-game betting goes sometimes, right? Just certain things you're not really banking on. But it was a lot of fun to work that show, especially just seeing the Lakers put that type of game on display against the Denver Nuggets and being able to watch it the whole way through.
Blowouts, including that game in Madison Square Garden, as you were alluding to there. Illinois, my goodness. I mean, did they just say, you know what? Looks like an off day. Enjoy the city, boys, and we'll fly back to Champaign, Illinois. They got absolutely hammered by Duke at that point, which was something to watch. But for me over the weekend, Had a lot of time handicapping these games, had a lot of fun, had a couple close bad beats where by a half-point margins, like yesterday, Xavier was probably my favorite, had 40 points at the break, needed to get to 74 points, ended up with 73 exactly, needed to get to 74. That one hurt. A couple games I had Siena yesterday. It's a team total over 76 and a half. They had, I think, Kevin, like 30 at the break. I'm like, that game's done. They scored like 60 plus odd points in the second half and cruised to the over. So I had some fun this weekend. Won Friday, pushed Saturday, lost a little bit on Sunday. But again, take a look there at the game against Seton Hall with Xavier. Come on, Xavier. I mean, my goodness, man. Just get some points for me in that game. We could have had it all worked out in our favor. But it was fun. I had a great week of team totals and looking forward to it tonight for sure.
Yeah, I had a Nova team total earlier in the week, or last weekend, I should say, week against UConn. Like, money was counted. I mean, they scored like 6 points last 10 minutes of the game for me to hardly miss. I was like, I don't even understand what I'm seeing. Like, they were up in the game, so that fell apart. Like 2 weeks ago, I had bet -5.5 with Illinois. They were up like 16. I checked the game; they won by 5. I was like, I don't even know what's going on here. I'll throw something at you with Duke. And it's very odd. But, and I know these are not the numbers that you concern yourself with Ken Palm, but the net rating number, DRS, it goes back to 2002. So this will be the 24th season of the, public data that Ken Palm is evaluating these teams on.
Yes.
And it's one guy, but listen, I mean, it's a legitimate thing that you can kind of use and compare. And to add a little bit of extra context, I've often told people that the best team I ever saw in college basketball was the platoon squad Kentucky team. Didn't win the national title. Their only loss was to Wisconsin in the Final Four. And years after saying that, learning what KenPom was, I always appreciated that was actually the number one team ever on KenPom by net rating. This year's Duke team is smoking that Kentucky team now in net rating after the Illinois game, to a degree that I'm almost uncomfortable with, Donnie. Like, this Duke team is really, really, really good.
Yeah.
I bet them to win the championship preseason. I don't feel like they are, at least in this moment, all-time great. Yet that is what the numbers suggest they are.
Yeah, their net rating a good 3 points higher than Auburn, who's in second, and also with Houston.
Crazy.
Yeah, like bring it into the conversation of now that we sort of have that centerpiece. I'm like, okay, top three teams that we see: Houston, Auburn, and Duke in the odds race. If we're just looking at the FanDuel Sportsbook, but also just looking at net rating, I wanted to see, because you could say like the ACC is down. Louisville's having a pretty good season. Clemson's having a pretty good season. Duke obviously having a really good season at that point. But I was like, okay, they're going out of conference, and the Big Ten is somewhat deep. But that was an eye-opening performance by Duke, because I tried to explain it to Ben and saying, okay, well, when you get to the tournament, it's neutral site, and it's out-of-conference teams you're playing for the most part. Like, that's as good as hey, you want to knock the ACC all you want, but we'll come here and knock your head off from another Power 5 conference and not skip a beat. Them dropping 110 points and blowing the doors off Illinois.
Crazy.
I know it was a double-digit spread, Kevin, but I didn't expect that type of a hammering.
No, I had the under in the game. And again, Illinois didn't make a 3 in the first half, and I lost the bet by 20 points, mind you. I got smoked on that under. And Illinois' team total went under. I mean, they just absolutely slaughtered that team. And what was incredible and what makes them scary, and Illinois is a mess right now, but for Shire, again, they're up 17 at the break, right? Playing great basketball. They were even better in the second half. Like, they put the pedal to the metal to them even more so. And that was and it's funny, but if you guys remember last year's tournament, the changing moment for UConn was they beat Illinois so bad in I don't know, was that the Sweet 16 or even the round of 32? I think it was the Sweet 16. People were like, man, you're not supposed to be able to do that to like a 4 seed or a 3, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And just their numbers then were out of control. And again, they covered everything, like very, very dominant again from Duke. But I'm loaded up. I have Duke and Houston futures, Donnie. Like, I'm done. There's no more adding for me, no matter what that bracket, ultimately shakes out as.
Yeah. Like I'm going to make my decisions, obviously, in the next couple of weeks. Or usually after Selection Sunday, just to get that one final rundown. But I did get a kick out of over the weekend. How about the WCC out there? Like St. Mary's sweeping Gonzaga again this year. I should say again, but sweeping them out there. Just crazy talk. Here comes Randy Bennett's boys.
Well, listen, great for St. Mary's. I hate to say, though, they aren't the story of that game. You have a team, Donnie, that's top 15 analytically that is legitimately on the bubble. Like, St. Mary's might have to win the auto bid out of the WCC in order to make the tournament. This was the case last year, and then they got on a huge run. Gonzaga started piling on some great victories, and everybody knew they were really good. Ultimately, their loss came at the hands of a Purdue team that went on and played in the national championship. So, Gonzaga became a legitimate threat.
Why would they be like? How could they possibly though be on the bubble? Like, you look at they lost 4 games. San Francisco, who's a decent team in the WCC, excuse me. Mm-hmm. Utah State lost to Boise and lost to Arizona State, but they got wins like Nebraska. They beat their USC.
The wins are tough, Donnie. The wins aren't there because the Baylor win's worse. The Indiana win is worse. Like, getting swept by St. Mary's, Donnie. It's not a typical Gonzaga setup. St. Mary's isn't on the bubble. St. Mary's isn't on the bubble. Gonzaga's on the bubble, Donnie. But Donnie, where is Gonzaga overall on KenPom? 11 or 12?
Yeah.
They're on the bubble if you look at Bracket Matrix.
11th.
Donnie, they're on the bubble on Bracket Matrix.
Ooh,
an 11th seed as 11th overall.
They both got to be in. They both got to be in here, people. Look, see what we're talking about? By the way, an NFL topic coming up next, talking about the New York Giants. You hold on for this one. We'll be right back at 7 at 9 on a Monday, right here on the SportsGrid Network.
Don't be that guy.
The kind that laughs at their losing friends when they win. As a SportsGrid listener, you should be more considerate. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. California Governor Gavin Newsom has asked Congress to approve nearly $40 billion in aid to help the Los Angeles area recover from January's devastating wildfires. Newsom sent a letter asking for support from lawmakers including House Speaker Mike Johnson and Representative Tom Cole of Oklahoma, the House Appropriations Committee chair. Estimates of the total economic loss from the firestorm have been estimated to surpass $250 billion, with real estate losses from the Palisades and Eaton fires predicted to potentially top $30 billion. Flu activity remains elevated in the United States, but is starting to show signs of abating according to new federal data published Friday. The 2024-25 season was classified by the CDC as a high-severity season overall for all age groups, making it the first high-severity season since 2017-2018. During the week ending February 15th, 6.8% of visits to doctors' offices were for flu-like illness, down from 7.7% of visits over the previous 2 weeks. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a walk-up with central air and a skylight, and you found it. Now, every Friday night, you get to fall asleep to the sound of your downstairs neighbors' dance parties. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available.
There are too many people addicted to their phones these days, unless it's to look or listen to the SportsGrid mobile app. In fact, you should delete all your apps but ours.
Your wife texts you too much anyway.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Right back out of here, SportsGrid Network. It is Moneyline on a Monday. New week, new money, as we like to say. Didn't really profit all that much over this weekend, so hopefully today is a brighter day. You do have some pretty good games, though, even for a Monday that we'll get to a little bit later. But as I alluded to before we opened into the break, this whole Matthew Stafford thing doesn't make any sense at this point now. Because the latest that came over the weekend was a tweet that goes, oh, no. They're not trading Matthew Stafford. We just want to get a market gauge so we can re-sign him back to some perfect stuff, which is ridiculous, Kevin.
No, folks, let me just tell you this. I mean this. This is why I will be working with Donnie. He'll never get rid of me because I'll be honest with you. I saw that, and all I could think of was I cannot wait to talk to Donnie. Sometimes in this life, you meet someone who sees these things. Me and Donnie, you guys know this. We don't see everything eye to eye, but reports like that, I feel as if me and him both just run to, and I'll go hand up. I completely forgot about it. I forgot about that report, and I'm so glad Donnie brought it up. It is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, maybe in my life, as far as spin, nonsense, approach. You can explain to people like truly what the tweet says, or do you want me to explain it and then you can go into kind of your reaction of what it all.
Go ahead. Take it whatever direction you want. We'll pile
Ian
on.
Rappaport sends out a tweet. Hey, just backing up Tom Pelissero's tweet here.
Yes.
That the Rams have told Stafford, you can go out and talk to any team you want to see what type of trade interest is out there.
Yes.
That way we now understand how much to pay you. If that is not the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life, DRS.
Yes. It's from the reasoning perspective, because we saw it a little bit with the Lamar Jackson thing. The Ravens basically goes, well, you know what? We think you're worth this amount. Bring us back a better deal and we'll sign you. And if it's just so crazy, we'll end up trading you. So some teams bid on it and gave them some feedback and information. And then they just signed Lamar Jackson to a monster contract. So the way I've always been looking at it is like, well, it started with that Adam Schefter tweet. And that tweet basically came back to us and said, hey, his brother-in-law now works for the Giants. I'm like, don't care about that. And then where there's smoke, there's fire. Oh, maybe the Giants win a trade. So we're going to get to the Giants in just a few moments. But the fact that that tweet came out over the weekend was like, never any intentions to trade him. We wanted the agent to call every organization to have them to have extensive negotiations on a market analysis and bring it back to us. Nobody else is doing that here in the NFL. So now that you see the tweet come out, we're actually led to believe that, hey, pick up the phone, Jacksonville. Hey, we know you got your quarterback. What would you pay Matthew Stafford on the open market? Like, nobody's doing that. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Obviously, there is a disconnect in that building between Matthew Stafford and the Rams, either coaching staff, front office, on A, what he's worth, and B, whether or not he even wants to be there and what they value. Because if I hear another like, hey, you know what? They're going to trade Stafford to whoever, pick up draft capital. And Kevin, they've been wanting Sam Darnold for so long. Like, nothing makes sense with what I'm hearing out of Los Angeles.
Yeah, so again, and I agree with Donnie in that. My biggest beef is if Stafford says, hey, listen, I'm down to stay, but I need a new contract. And the Rams go, hey, look, we'd love to keep you, but you're not worth that at all, at least from what we figured out. If you can prove to us you're worth that, okay, because the Giants and the Raiders and the Steelers are willing to give you money, then we'll give you money. That is then a broken relationship. No NFL player, certainly not a future Hall of Famer like Matthew Stafford, which he probably is at this point, is going. By the way, a quarterback that some said was one of the 5 best in football entering the postseason is not going to, from a negotiation standpoint, have a team tell him, you're not worth that, but if you prove to us that we're wrong, then fine, we'll give you every amount you want. That is insane. That is not how any of this works. And if you're the Rams, you don't do that if you want to keep the guy. So we're letting you find a trade. Because by the way, let's use the Giants, right? When the Giants are going to tell Stafford what they pay him on the open market, but Stafford isn't on the open market, so they will then have to give the Rams draft capital, but then also be on the hook to extend Stafford an amount of money that they don't maybe necessarily need to. Why would you do that if you're the New York Giants? Like, if you're the Giants, you go, no, you're putting him on the block. We're not negotiating. We'll figure out his contract when he's on our football team. Trade us him, and then we'll go about that. That doesn't make any sense. But what I would say, and I think even if it doesn't make sense, Donnie, from a winning perspective, it does feel like that Rams-Stafford relationship is broken. And it is unlikely now they come back together for next season.
And again, look, how could it be broke based on they were one blown center guard exchange on picking up Jalen Carter from being in the Super Bowl? And would we have the same? Hey, Rams won the Super Bowl. Yeah, but Stafford wants out. He wants to go to the Giants. Like, I'm trying to put last season in perspective and what I think moving forward. One of the best young, talented front sevens in football they're going to have. They got a little bit of money to spend there. They got free agency. They got the draft coming up. Like, this looks like it'll be perfect. And then also, take it out of the Rams where they're dying to get like Jimmy Garoppolo in there because he's a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford, apparently. But from like a Giants perspective, that's all we keep on hearing. Like, the Giants are in the front runner seat here to get Stafford. And I go, understand this. The lineup and the roster absolutely is atrocious in New York. They have a sieve offensive line with one heartbeat at left tackle. Everybody else is horrendous. An aging quarterback who's used to playing in a dome is going to now play outdoors in the Meadowlands. And the final case in point, you're going to give up a lot of draft capital and then go, hey, man, it's really nice. Stafford's going to play on $1 million a year. No. He's playing on $55+ million a year in New York. I try to explain it to people because you're getting arguments on Twitter and whoever you talked about, but it's just the last destination for Matthew Stafford with an organization in the entire NFL should actually be the New York Giants.
I think that's interesting. I think for the Giants, the roster, maybe I'm a bit higher on it than you are in the moment, but we don't see this very often. In the NBA, you never see this. But a team that DRS would typically say, and I don't think many would, hey, man, you're going to win 3-4 games. It's fine. You're bad. Reset. A team going, if we get Stafford in, we could win 9 or 10 games. Sneak into the postseason, and that might save our jobs. And by the way, because Donnie, if it's not the Giants, you know where he's going right after that? Las Vegas Raiders. Brady, Pete Carroll, time to win 8 games, pal.
You want me back on a team, people? You want me back in on one team? I'm going to give you a team where Matthew Stafford's going. We can all get excited about. It's Moneyline here. It's on a Monday. We're on the SportsGrid Network. We'll be right back.
Get SportsGrid on the radio, TV, our mobile app, or the internet. In other words,
if you can't hear us,
you're the problem. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1980, the U.S. hockey team clinches a gold medal win with a 4-2 victory over Finland at the Lake Placid Winter Olympics. Captain Mike Eruzione said head coach Herb Brooks made it a point to his team not to blow this chance.
And he walks in the locker room and he looks at us and he says, if you lose this game, you'll take it to your bleeping grave. And he walked out, he stopped at the door, he pointed his finger back at us and said, your bleeping grave.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Have you ever noticed small sparks of static electricity when you pull apart adhesive tape accidentally stuck together? New American Chemical Society research lighting up 300 LEDs by harvesting useful electric power from ripping apart regular store-bought plastic or aluminum tape. A device converting mechanical energy into electricity is referred to by physics as a triboelectric nanogenerator. Intended for wearable electronics, possibly in the future, triboelectric nanogenerators might even enable small, portable medical devices. Powered by ripping off a Band-Aid. G. Capalbo on X, and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Football Full Circle.
If you make a bet based off a new coordinator early on, you're potentially setting yourself up for either disaster or losing money. Look at what Vic Fangio did after game number 4. People wanted to run him out of town after Kirk Cousins gets that game-winning drive. From that point on, best defense in the NFL.
It's Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and Joe Lisi. Weekdays noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Apparently, some of you are confusing the winning edge
with luck.
And we say nay.
The winning edge is sports gaming strategies and information you can use to create your own luck. Step 1,
keep it here.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Another break here. I told you, Kevin, there's one team that needs Matthew Stafford. Do you know who it is from my perspective? Come on now. Take a guess.
My guess is the New York Jets.
No.
Okay.
There's one team that I shouldn't root for. There's one team out there that really should have no bearing on my Sunday afternoons. But for the past couple of years, I've been really intrigued with this team. Who is that?
Oh, man, I want to get this
They
right.
have the right quarterback situation. Are they bringing guys back? Should they go a different route?
Can I tell you where can I tell you
What?
My mind just went, because you're such a troll, even though I know that you're being serious, is my mind just went to the Eagles.
No, oh my God. Wow. Now that's, you know what? See, I should have put them in, because you talk about Stafford on that Eagles offense out here. I mean, you got something, man. Now you're getting me peaked. Now, is there a chance that Jalen wants to be in LA? He's underappreciated. You switch it up. You don't even have any problems with the salary cap. You get $50 million for $50 million on quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good.
No, it's I now have realized it's one of two teams, but it's probably the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Gotta be the Steelers. Like if there's one, like again, like Stafford is a quarterback that's supposed to put you over the top. You look at the Giants, like they're over the top of like the dumpsters, where they're going like right into the trash can. Like if they get him, but like the Steelers, legitimately, like they are just missing like a functional quarterback to push the football downfield. But then when I start to think about Mike Tomlin, it's like, well, okay. We get Stafford, we run the football. Man, maybe 15 passes a game. Like, no, Mike, that's not how it works here. You get Stafford, you let sling it all over the lot. George Pickens is happy again, and Freiermuth's dominant. You get a number 2 wide receiver. You got a good running game here. I would love to see Stafford with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really would.
I get it. I totally get it. I think they feel significantly more legit if they make that move. I'll throw out another team where maybe the offensive line is better, and the quarterback currently there, I know you'll have no problem moving off of. The Indianapolis Colts.
Dome?
Give Shane Steichen a shot. Like, you think Steichen's beating doors down right now? Just be like, please, man. Like, we gotta make a move here.
I'll tell the shame of it all, too, from Irsay's perspective. Should have fired him. Could have came right back to the Eagles. Sorry. Go ahead with your point.
I actually did think that there was a chance they would fire him, which got me very fired up, because then he, again, would just come right back to Philly. So the two landing spots for me with Stafford that legitimately are the Giants and the Raiders, because Stafford leaving the Rams shows this is not, man, I can't win here. I got to get somewhere else. It's me and the organization aren't good right now. And where do I want to set myself up? And I think for Stafford, I think for the family, that seems like it is probably New York or Las Vegas. That's what that feels like to me. And I think both of those organizations, based on their other moves, would be very interested in bringing in Matthew Stafford. More so, because what's crazy, DRS, is I think the Giants are more in on Matthew Stafford than the Pittsburgh Steelers are.
It's hard for me, because I love the conversation topic, but it still blows my mind. It would be like as you were laughing, like, you know what, man, rumblings are coming. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles don't get along. Like after an MVP Super Bowl, winning season. Like if you would have ended the season and the thought process, like, yeah, they're looking to move on from Matthew Stafford. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like, again, politics aside, where you want to live in the country, right? You live in LA, 75, doesn't rain, more money than God, playing maybe the best stadium in the NFL, let's just say, technology-wise, luxury-wise. You're in a dome, which you love to be there. The press isn't overwhelming, like they're going to bury you when you come to New York, and if the Giants open up 2-5. Like, I don't even understand, like, from the output, and also from the team, like, hey, the run was fun. Like, you won a Super Bowl there. You had your little lull. Now you're on the come up again. Like at the right time, like, hey, man, I have to throw to this guy Puka Nacua. Like, tough scene out there. The guy catches everything and is wide open every play. Well, I would love to have a run. Kyron Williams, top 10 running back at the top, maybe even top 5 in the NFL, and a young defense you can build around with money to spend. Like, I need to know more where it's coming from. Because, again, that original Adam Schefter tweet, Kevin, that came out and basically told us, like, hey, by the way, brother-in-law's in Jiu-Jitsu. It's like, so what? Why would you include that? Well, there was smoke at that time. So I want to ask you this after the break. Like, we're going to put a percentage on Matthew Stafford actually moving out of Los Angeles. And also, who the heck would be behind him? I know some people are begging for Justin Fields to take that starting job, but smart thinkers aren't thinking that way. We'll be right back at the Moneyline.
The non-maniac.
Losers rely on luck. Winners depend on getting the information they need.
Winners depend on us.
The home of the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score. Top 25 college basketball yesterday. Number 10 St. John's wins over UConn at home, 89-75. Indiana, they get a win at home over number 13 Purdue, 73-58. And number 22 Memphis gets the win over Florida Atlantic, 84-65. 3 top 25 games tonight, including a matchup of 2 top 25 teams. Number 5 Houston on the road to take on number 9 Texas Tech in the biggest game of the night. Elsewhere, number 12 Michigan going to be on the road against Nebraska. Number 23 Kansas, they go to Colorado. The Philadelphia 76ers looking at options for the knee injury that Joel Embiid is currently dealing with. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
If you've been waiting to hear Macy's winter clearance, now's the time. Get everything you've been eyeing all season long at prices that are worth the wait. How good? Think 40 to 70% off coats, sweaters, boots, and more. Plus, come in and get an extra 20% off all your clearance purchases. That's up to 75% off. So if you've been waiting to treat yourself to something cute and cozy, hurry into Macy's tomorrow because you're not the only one ready to score amazing winter deals. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Hey, not to be dramatic, but you should smell this. It smells so good.
Whoa, that's quite the reaction to mixing and matching Gain scents. Let's hear another from Ashley, who mixed Gain products and went,
I'm so excited.
yes, you are. What about you, Isaiah?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and Emily summed it up like so.
It is just chef's kiss.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Mix, match, more happy with Gain.
When you're a player,
Advantage is important.
that would be bringing you sports gaming strategies and information
7 days a week.
We call it the winning edge. Everybody else calls it
Unfair.
Hate the game, not the player, dude.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
We're going to get back to a little college basketball talk in just a few moments here, because I do think it's an interesting part overall. And also, setting the parameters, Kevin, as you know, this weekend it's March. Like, it's March Madness. March 2nd is Sunday. Some of the lower level conferences are beginning their conference tournaments this Sunday coming up. So if you're just diving back in like I am, almost Kevin, like a crash course, like the past week I've been having so much fun with. But we'll get there in just a moment. Let's just wrap up this Matthew Stafford talk. Like, coming into next NFL season, what are your true odds on Matthew Stafford actually being traded here? What's it like for you?
Yeah, I now expect him to be moved. I do. It feels like way too much smoke is around this. It looks like there's just a ready to separate here from player and organization. So, call it 60-40. The Rams have better odds. I think 60 that he's gone. I really think he's going. Here's what I will say. I understand you struggle with this situation because it doesn't make any sense, and I agree with you.
Yes.
But it's where we are. Like, I, maybe foolishly, right, am just like, look, they don't look like they are on good. Now, look, Rodgers wasn't on good terms with Green Bay year after year. Donnie told me he'll be back, and he was back, right? Lamar Jackson, I don't know, put a trade request in, was on the block. I don't know. He's never going to play a game for anybody other than the Baltimore Ravens, unless you're talking like 9, 8, 10 years down the road. The Stafford one just feels different because it's so out of nowhere. And it just feels like there's a lot more going on. It feels like the Cooper Kupp situation. It feels like the Rams are maybe going into the cutthroat approach, right? Potentially with some of their guys, Donnie. And it feels, and there's going to be suitors, which is important, right? And they don't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be Pittsburgh and Indianapolis. It can be the Giants and the Raiders.
It's again, and I know where you're coming from on this, because like I look at things and say it doesn't make any sense, but there's a reason why this is getting out, because most organizations would say, yeah, Stafford's coming back and we know we got to pay him more and we will, and we'll be fine. Do you remember like the Kwesi Mensah or Mensa Dolfo, I forget the general manager's name in Minnesota, who came out.
Okay. Yeah.
Justin Jefferson's the best. We're gonna pay more than anybody else ever has paid a wide receiver. It's like, okay, we don't have to worry about this for months. And what did they do at the end of it? They paid him more than any wide receiver ever got. That's usually what you hear of, like, our guy is in camp. Now, let me just ask you this quick question too, because a couple minutes here. The Pittsburgh Steelers, which again is interesting. To me, I wouldn't bring back any of those quarterbacks. You saw what Russ had. Russ's top end is not going to win you playoff games. Maybe a game if the things go right, not games. Justin Fields, I don't even know if he can get you to the playoffs. If he can, he's not winning games in the playoffs. So if you are the Steelers, there's two choices for me on the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's, you say, Mike, you want to run this string out, go ahead. As long as you're winning football games, even though you're not winning anything in the playoffs, it's hard to fire you. Like, over 500, small market team, we're still winning, Steelers tradition, blah, blah, blah. Or is this one of those where you say, hey, Mike, we're going to give you two choices. You want to run this out and never win? You might be coaching you for 3 or 4 more years. Or do you want to tear this thing down? We're going to trade away our high-end defensive talent. We're going to restructure through the draft. We're going to get our quarterback and rebuild. Like, what do you do as the Steelers? Because I think if you do get a superstar quarterback, which, again, you might argue any NFL team gets a superstar quarterback, but if, like, Matthew Stafford showed up in Pittsburgh, ready to go, like, does that change your opinion of Pittsburgh? Like, they can do damage, or no, that division is too tough? Nothing is going to change the Pittsburgh Steelers' output, in your opinion.
No, it definitely changes the opinion, because I think Matthew Stafford would be the best quarterback since figure out the Big Ben season where you felt good about Big Ben, right?
Yeah.
It definitely would. Now, I think they become a team that you could sell yourself on winning the Super Bowl, but it also feels like it could, kind of crumble. What does he look like? Here's the thing with Stafford. I'm not sure I'm going to be super high on Stafford regardless of where he goes, right? Like, the Steelers offense, Donnie, seems to have a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I want to buy in on a guy going from Sean McVay to Arthur Smith. That becomes a big issue for me if that's the way that this starts to play out. And I'll tell you with Pittsburgh, I really don't know what they're doing. I said the other day, I'd like to see Pittsburgh trade up in the draft and give themselves a shot at an elite quarterback prospect. I don't think Kenny Pickett was that.
Kenny Pickett, yeah.
Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback selected within the first 2 rounds of that draft, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly it just was a terrible quarterback class. Now, some people are, really low on Shedeur Sanders now. I'm still high on Shedeur Sanders personally. Some people think they might be able to sit there and draft Shedeur. I don't know, maybe, but I would be very interested in what that would look like for Pitt. But I'm starting to get very low on the Tomlin, Arthur Smith, leads. Don, remember when everything was Matt Canada's fault?
Yes.
The guy just keeps running the same halfback dive.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And then Arthur Smith came in and ran the same thing.
Correct.
Like, this season, I'm lower on Tomlin than I've ever been.
But what the opinion of, let's just take Matthew Stafford out of it.
Yep.
Let's just say they do bring back, and I don't think they can, but maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers fans are an ardent fan base. They love their squad, but it is an interesting dynamic shift from the Pittsburgh Steelers as, look at all the Lombardies we have, to now we can just win 1 game above 500. It's crazy talk, but also it's hard to throw Tomlin out and say, here's what his record is. He's respected and all that. But let's just say they don't get a Matthew Stafford. Okay, you know what? Came to agreement, $17 million a year on Justin Fields. Like, wouldn't you just, if, as a fan, knock your head against the wall going, we have so much talent and we just can't get the quarterback situation correct. And not only can we get correct, we can't even bring a veteran just to steady it. Because Russ came on and he played decent for the first couple games, but it was apparent by the end of the season he couldn't get out of the way of any, hey, remember Russ back in the day didn't need an offensive line because he juked 5 defenders every play and threw dime passes down the field. We can't do that anymore. What happens if they bring back Justin Fields next year? Is it a wrap, or hey, Tomlin's going to get fired? What is the scenario?
But I think Steelers fans are starting to get to the point, which is what you talk of, man, we'd like to be terrible, actually. This isn't fun anymore. We are tired of being 9-8. Everybody knows we're not good. I mean, they stink. They are bad. They got in the playoffs last year. Nobody thought they. What did they catch? 10 in the wild card round? I mean, they lose every wild card game by 2 touchdowns plus.
Yeah.
that they show up in. So it's just, I think it's one. And look, no one does this, Donnie. Here's what if the Pittsburgh Steelers were an NBA team, you know what they would do? Trade TJ Watt. They trade Myles Garrett's on the block. Right? That's like
Watt. It's Minka Fitzpatrick.
Pickens.
Highsmith on the other side. Like everybody would be like Pittsburgh would be the great reset for me. Like, hey, you know what? Steelers fans, they'll still show up. You understand what we're doing because I do think fans buy in. And if you're a bad franchise, like there's a lot of them in the NFL. Let's just put Charlotte in there right now, right? You just take a look at the Panthers right now, and you say to Carolina, and you say, all right, we're going to be on a path towards we're going to win more football games than not, maybe make some playoffs. Boy, they would be over the moon at that point. But the Pittsburgh Steelers that are known for like the 70s and, winning a couple in the 2000s, and we're always right in the mix and championships. I think if you sold them, like, you know what? It hasn't worked. Would Steeler fans be up in arms? Like, you trading J.J. Watt, that's crazy. No, listen now. We're going to get at least a first rounder for him. We'll trade the other defensive end, maybe a late first rounder as well, second round pick. We're going to restart this process. We're going to get our quarterback, and we're going to rebuild this thing. Like, if you have confidence in our franchise and our front office, let us do this for the next 2 to 3 years. What Steeler fan would say no, to be honest?
No, I don't think any. Like, that is, they are a team that, let's just say this year goes bad and they fire Tomlin, and the next season they win 4 games. There will be some people who will victory lap, be like, told you shouldn't have fired Tomlin. And there will be people like Donnie and I who go, this is the best thing that's ever happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes.
This way of existing is as bad as any.
Yes, it absolutely is. And that'll do it for a little football talk here. I want to talk some college basketball. I want to talk NBA with K-Dub on what's on the horizon, particularly. Sixers the favorite tonight. Get out of here. We'll be right back.
Every day we have one job.
To make bells ring.
And we do exactly that by giving you the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score. The Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid reportedly are talking to doctors, and they are looking at alternative options such as surgery for the injured left knee, as this continues to be something that is been bothering him. In the NBA coming up tonight, it is a full slate of games. Clippers at the Pistons, Pacers at home against the Nuggets, Sixers and Bulls will match up in Philadelphia, Wizards at home against the Nets. In Atlanta, the Hawks are going to play host to the Heat. The Timberwolves and Thunder are going to play the second end of a home-and-home tonight in Oklahoma City. The Jazz are at home against the Trailblazers, and the Hornets on the road to take on the Kings. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with MyLowe's Rewards. Earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
One of life's greatest mysteries has finally been solved.
Who let the dogs out? Spruce.
It's Spruce, the new hard-working, worry-free weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people and pets. When used as directed, spray the leaves for visible results in just 1 hour and dead weeds in just 1 day. You spray, they play. Weeds die by the next day. Find Spruce wherever weed killers are sold.
Every real player will tell you somewhere
They have an advantage.
it could be either physical, mental, or both. In your case, it's strategies and information you get right here.
The home of the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
76ers, Chicago Bulls tonight. Does that get on your radar? Like, does that make you just, sit back like, whoa, like that's what we want to do? Like, come on now. They're favorite tonight, Kevin. 3.5 up to 4.5. Embiid's not even playing tonight. The Sixers have shown with their full lineup, and they don't even compete with like the Raptors. And I know the Bulls stink at 22-35. But Is that a hot point tonight? Like we're betting the Sixers? How?
You know who the Sixers remind me of a little bit in this moment? One of your favorite teams to talk about, how the Browns that year, they lost every game, were the sharp side every week.
Yes.
Like
Correct.
it feels like the Sixers are like, why is that 4.5? Gotta lay it. Yeah, Sixer line. And then you're laying double digits against the Nets, and you're like, we just lost outright. Like I'm not even sure what's going on. I was telling DRS in the break, not a victory lap I'm sure he'll enjoy because it is his basketball team, but before they played a single game of the second half, Donnie goes, yeah, they're going to get a couple of games to prove that they shouldn't end this season. And they literally were given a couple of games, 2, lost them both. And the Sixers were like, yeah, we're probably going to need to shut Embiid down because this is a disaster. Which, by the way, they should.
Okay. And understand the evolution of the Philadelphia Sixers franchise, which is built on tanking here. We're okay with tanking. You give us a good football team, maybe hockey's manageable and the Phillies can carry it. We'll tank an entire winter because the time I wake up for football season, we are so far gone, like past the halfway. But the Sixers stink, could shut it down. But understand this. Even if they do limp, like the Sixers not like, hey, we can't give up on the season. We're going to be the 9th overall seed heading into the playoffs when you know Embiid is going to play 1 or 2 games in the playoffs. And like he will take load management in the playoffs because he just can't stay healthy. So you say, Paul George, send in to Cancun. Joel Embiid, we're reconstructing that knee right now so you're ready for next year. You're not having any Olympics that's going to mess up your offseason, and you're just going to try to restart. Because the one thing with the Sixers is, Kevin, they are so deep into the salary cap. You can't just be like, okay, trade Embiid, trade Paul George. You have to take back contracts. Like you're either all in with this, which is probably your best hope, and you try it again next year. If it doesn't, then so be it. You just tear the thing down. It doesn't matter if you're bad for 5 or 6 years. But this season, like salvaging it for what? It's not as if like, hey, look, Embiid hasn't played the whole year. He looks amazing in practice, and he's going to be refreshed. They are running on fumes right now and are bordering on just getting in to the actual playing rounds. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, look, you're 100% correct. I just think, I don't know what happened with Embiid. Because, even when he was at the Olympics, he didn't look 1,000,000%, I think most people would say. And it was before the season. They were like, yeah, something's not right coming into the year. I was like, oh, that's odd, right? And clearly Embiid is not correct. There are times with Joe, I know a lot of people attack Embiid. It's complicated, I think. But there are times when he talks where I start to feel really bad for him. I'll be honest with you, because you hear him go, he's like, yeah, I don't know, my body's not right. It's just, I know I'm not right. I wish I was right. I'm not right. And it's not like Embiid thinks, oh, there's nothing wrong. Like you can tell he is aware that this isn't how it's supposed to be. And I think that if you're the Sixers, it stinks that this played out this way. But to some degree, the Embiid stuff is overshadowing what I think's more concerning in the Paul George stuff. Like, I would say, Donnie, if Embiid gets shut down and comes back next year fully healthy, I would expect him to go back to averaging 33 a night because that's what we've seen from him. Why is Paul George terrible? Why is Paul George worse than Tobias Harris? Like, that's far worse to me.
Yeah. It was like it was a good player, but a bad fit on the Sixers. It feels like it's how it's playing out at this point. Because you're right. If Embiid sounds like, hey, everybody's got to eat, and PG's like, I'm going to get my 25, 26 a night. Who can keep up? And it just hasn't been that case. Now, you look at the card tonight, which, again, the NBA pet peeve for me is always like, why do I have to handicap these games in the morning and everybody's on a back-to-back? It feels like every single day. And there's even a back-to-back tonight, which, Kevin, between the Timberwolves and the Thunder, that basically is, we'll play in your city the night before, and then we'll play in the other city the next night. Just have the back-to-back in the damn, Timberwolves so you can get a clean game, both efforts here. So I get angry at that just right off the break. Heat Hawks is going to be one of those type of games. Who else is on it? Is it Nuggets and the Pacers? I think the Pacers played last night. The Nuggets are fresh. Clippers and Pistons, they both played last night at this point, which, again, the Clippers now the favorite in that one. The Pistons are actually hot, but I always joke like Norm Powell didn't play yesterday. That's why they got beat. Norm Powell's supposed to be in the lineup, so the Clippers get their A game. Did you take a look at any of the games on the card tonight on this back-to-back night in the NBA?
Yeah, I've been trying to bet more sides since we hit. I don't understand the OKC Minnesota situation. In the Minnesota last night was able to hang on and cover. We flip home court. It's 12.5. Like, that feels right, but it feels like too much, right? Like, that when you get a big number like that, that's very, very tempting to me.
Yeah.
The other thing is just like, every time I see a Hawks spread, I assume it means Trae Young isn't playing, and like he plays every game.
Yeah.
I know they've been injured throughout the year. Again, I know they just gave up 148 last night to Detroit, but I can't. This Miami team is driving me crazy, man. I hate this team so much.
Yeah.
Like, I had a stupid win total bet on them that's not going to win. I had them +5 last night. They're up 10 at half. They lose the fourth quarter by 15. They can't score. I'll tell you, like, sometimes I look at what they're doing, and everyone loves Spo. I feel like Spo's tanking. That or he's lost it, because every button he's pressing is wrong with the Miami Heat. So that's been driving me absolutely insane right now with the Heat. It's a short 1.5. Like, Miami's a road favorite in that game.
When do we start playoffs? April? We got about a month and a half left.
Basically, they'll pick up the pieces from the, I think, they'll pick up like the pieces from March Madness. Like, I think that'll maybe be like the last week of regular season basketball or something like that.
March coming up this weekend. Love it. Love to see it because, again, the Northeast, man, we've seen a little 50-degree temperatures here as we were just ice age impacted, it felt like, for the past month and a half. So things starting to look up on the up and up. A couple weeks away from Selection Sunday. The Sports Grid Network going to have you covered all the way through March Madness, right up to the finals. Joe Lisi in the cockpit there trying to get busy with college basketball. Could it be? Could it be? Oh, the boy down the right side, and it's Kevin Walsh. We want to touch on a little NCAA action right after this short break, so keep it right here, Sports Grid Network.
A sports gamer who relies on luck never makes the same mistake twice.
It's usually 3 or more times.
We're the home of the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. The new Sports Grid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the Sports Grid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime. On the go, wherever you are. Download the Sports Grid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
For anyone who's worried about back taxes, has not filed tax returns, and doesn't know what to do next, stop and listen. Not filing your taxes can have severe consequences, especially in this political climate. Now that COVID is over, the IRS is getting aggressive, massively increasing enforcement and collection efforts. With politicians making all sorts of promises, especially when it comes to taxes, hiding and not dealing with your taxes will cause you harsh legal and financial ramifications. But right now, the IRS offers forgiveness and writes off a massive amount of tax debt. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. Don't hide or bury your head in the sand. Take advantage of our free service. Call now to learn more. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. That's 800-816-4492.
Football full circle.
How are the meatballs in New Orleans, by the way? Joe's Bistro, we ate there every day. I ate the meatballs every day. They were fantastic. DRS looked like he was going to the chair for his last meal. I mean, every day. I never saw it. 3 seconds flat. He didn't even let it marinate in his mouth. Guy's going to the chair, it looked like.
It's Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and Joe Lisi. Weekdays, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. On the Sports Grid Radio Network. We deliver the skinny, the 411, the dirt, the tea, the cookie, TMI, FYI, APB, FAQ, Intel, Snitch, Spec, Retcon, Wikipedia, Docs, Hard Drive, Helabyte, Tidbit, Anecdate, Education, Exclamation, Amplification, Information
on daily sporting events.
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Right back at it. Look at that. End of an episode. Fun Monday. Getting back in the cockpit this week. Big college basketball week. Houston, Texas Tech tonight. Michigan, Nebraska, North Carolina, Florida State. Kansas, Colorado. What are we feeling about tonight's card? By the way, a lot of those mid-majors and unders tonight that I need to start handicapping. I want to come away with 3 wagers tonight again. Because I figure 4 is hard because 2-2 is usually what you're supposed to do. 3-1 is like a world-class night. 4, no, you get it. But I feel like 2-1 is always attainable in the streets.
Yeah. I want to throw something at you because you probably didn't check in on it.
Go ahead.
But
I know what you're going. I know where you're going in a second. Because the Saturday, I brought it up to Ben on Friday. I said, Kevin, turn me on to this one team. I said, let me handicap this game. And that was the joke on Friday, which I was talking about, was this basketball team, Mississippi Valley State, might not get across half court against the team they were playing. And I looked at the scores repeated on Saturday and couldn't, chuckling under my breath, this team's got 9 points with 6 minutes to play in the first half. The worst team I've ever seen in my life, favored by getting 17 or 18 tonight against an equally bad quote unquote record team. Is that what we got tonight?
I didn't even realize they were playing tonight. I didn't.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. They are?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Look at let me just bring the game up real quick because it's Mississippi Valley State and
they're
Prairie
catching
View
17 and a half from a team with 4 wins.
Yeah, correct.
Come on, man.
They beat this team by nine earlier in the year. This feels like a rise. This feels like a rise up scenario here for Mississippi Valley State, doesn't it?
Can I?
They rise up tonight.
If you could cap this game, I'd love it because I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I was going to blind bet Mississippi Valley Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was my plan until you broke it down and I went, that's one of the purest team total unders I've ever heard Donnie break down.
It really was.
And they scored 38. I mean, they didn't get close.
Yeah. It was okay, we're going to play a team that does everything really well. At the same time, we do the same things, exact opposite direction. So you tried to use football terms hey, man, we've seen they haven't even crossed midfield yet. That was that game and it turned out perfectly. But if you are looking, they are so bad, Mississippi Valley State, at everything they do. But the interesting part about it is their point distribution, Kevin, is third in conference play at 54% of their offense coming from inside the arc. Number 1 is Prairie View A&M at allowing points inside the arc. 58% of the points that come against them are inside the arc. They don't. Here's the thing. There's 12 teams in the conference. 11th out of 12 in the conference is Mississippi Valley State at shooting the 3-point shot. Number 1 at chasing you off is Prairie View. So theoretically, Mississippi Valley State actually has a pathway. It's we really stink and we probably won't do it anyway, but we don't like the 3. They stop the 3. The only way we ever score is hopefully we get a layup or a putback at the rim. And the other team gives up more points inside the arc than anybody else in the conference. Wild.
So all right. So I'm probably gonna have to run it back tonight. That's awesome. I'll say for me, the big game to watch is Houston and Texas Tech. I've fell in love with this Houston team. Houston's one loss in conference at home in overtime to this Texas Tech team. I expect a classic Houston defensive effort. I don't think, I think you're looking at Texas Tech. I don't see him touching 70. That team total is probably going to be 64 and a half, 65 and a half. That's going to be a look for me as I start to dive into that game a little bit more. I'm invested in Houston winning this game because as somebody with, again, futures on them, I think a win here tonight, they're going to get a 1 seed. They're going to get a 1 seed.
And I would agree. I handicap this game. First thing I do is usually, I don't ever go in college football to the lines. Let me see if these lines look right. I'll write to Ken Palm, get my numbers together, and then say, all right, let's just see what some of these spreads work out. Because you might think to yourself, this team should be getting 4.5. Wait a second. They're getting 11.5. It's this is a steal. That's where I like to handicap. But the first thing I did was Texas Tech has an advantage, Kevin, from the 3-point line against Houston. I said, let me dig into that a little bit deeper. And you just brought up that they played before. So I didn't even look at the previous game until I just did now. But I liked Texas Tech until I saw Chance McMillan, who's their best 3-point shooter, missed the game Saturday, was in a walking boot. He's probably not playing tonight at this point. So if you actually go back to the game number 1, Kevin, who led the scoring? Chance McMillan, 23 points in that game. Next closest guy, 17, 13, and 14. He misses, he was almost the key because they have a couple guys that can really sling it from 3. But he was the linchpin. And if he's not there, I'm not saying Texas Tech can't win. Look at the line. They're giving them an equal chance. But if their best player per se is not in that game and he can really launch from 3, I got to go Houston. I think I do.
All right, there we go. Good spot for the Cougs.
There we go.
For the
Monday.
Cougs.
We're in. We're back. better than ever. Enjoying the time. JP behind the wheels of steel. Donnie right side here along with Kevin Walsh. Thanks for tuning into a Monday edition of Moneyline. Tomorrow's a Tuesday. Yeah, we'll be right back here again tomorrow. For the rest of the day,
Being a SportsGrid listener doesn't make life perfect.
But it'll do till perfect comes along.
We're